What about the civilizations? The pics we're seeing on our screen right now.
I was gonna say that's what I was gonna talk about. Oh my god, we're like
Nice.
best friends. We finish each other's sandwiches. The for Pepinno Pig going is China. Nostromia going for Abbasid dynasty. These are two rather reactive civilizations, right? These are two rather defensive civilizations. Abbasid, you can do things like economic wing and get a bunch of town centers. For China, you get Song dynasty, you get two town centers. You're pumping villagers out like the reproductive rates of China during Song Dynasty were insane. You're able to get a lot of those villagers out. But for the Abbasid dynasty, they have a potential to add some aggression. You said Nostromia is more of an aggressive player, so maybe she goes into more of a feudal age aggression, which the Abbasid, if you go military wing and you add boot camp with it, you have the potential to do that, and it might be able to catch Pepinno Pig before that Chinese, when all of those little pieces of the Chinese end up synchronizing together and it becomes that late game powerhouse. Nostromia might be able to catch her off guard.
Mm-hmm. And this is something that I can definitely see happening on a very peculiar map that we're playing. The first time in the tournament that we are seeing this map. And guys, oh, I just realized I opened the wrong one, but it's fine. So I realized I opened the wrong map. The wrong map, guys. I apologize. I saw Golden Heights and I got really excited for China. But on this case, we will be seeing... Wait. This is a very, very interesting spawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it absolutely is. We can see on these hills, obviously, this map is called Hill and Dale. So you can see that there is two hills, and right betwixt them is a nice little dale. A dale is actually a valley. And I had to when I first started casting this map, I was like, what the hell is a dale? And then I finally put the pieces together. But anyway, this is a map that both civilizations can sit and boom a little bit. You know, you have that natural defensive positioning with those hills. You can make some walls around on the sides that you can actually get exposed, and then you could just sit and boom. So honestly, this map is really good for Pepinno Pig in that late game China, but Abbasid is no slouch to the late game either.
Understanding the map is such a big part here. This map is very good for Mongols, for example, because this map is a lovely sit back and trade map. But what we're seeing is Pepinno Pig is in her element, being able to use these natural hills next to the dale. I did not know that either, Tim, so thank you for the English lesson. This is why you are the native English speaker around America. The two of us. America, hell yeah. So, with the House of Wisdom, we are going to get some choices, different from Ayubits, for those of you who are not too familiar. We are going to be seeing maybe a little bit of an aggressive Nostromia, knowing that she's playing against Pepinno Pig, who is very much not aggressive, and I would expect her to try be the person who closes out the game with at least 6 rams. That is what I'm hoping for. And she does age up with the Culture Wing, so...
Wow.
Tell us about that, Tim. Tell us about that Culture Wing.
You know, honestly, because we hyped Nostromia about being an aggressive player, a Culture Wing wasn't really something that I expected. But when you go up with a Culture Wing, the first thing that you get in Feudal Age is Preservation of Knowledge, which is in that third column. It's that very first one if you want to hover over it for the Whamen, just so they can see it. But Preservation of Knowledge, it just means that every technology that you get after you get that particular technology is cheaper, which includes going up to Castle Age. So a lot of people, sometimes they'll go Culture Wing in Feudal Age if they want to do some kind of fast castle shenanigans. They'll go with Culture Wing, they'll get Preservation of Knowledge, and then all of a sudden their age up to castle gets a little bit cheaper. Abbasid did used to, before Ayubids existed, Abbasid did used to have a fast castle build of its own. So maybe Nostromia is going for that particular regard. I mean, when there's different things like 2TC military wing builds, there's obviously economic wing builds with a lot of town center. It doesn't seem like Nostromia wants to do that. So using things like Culture Wing and then fast castling into military wing to get things like boot camp, composite bows, all of that kind of stuff for the Abbasid might be helpful. But it looks like for how much that she has on stone, Whamen, she's got 5 on stone. That's not something for an outpost. I think she's looking for a second town center as well.
And I'm completely shocked. I was so sure when we started talking about this that she was going to go for a fast castle, make a bunch of gulams, and send them over the map and destroy China. But instead, we're seeing a spicy little 2TC play with a culture wing, which I'm not too sure how those two would be connected. That's an interesting one, but it might be because of this. It reduces the cost of all technology and age advancements. Yes, we talked about that, but the technology part is key here. I think she's just going to go and get upgrades and make sure that she gets the strongest economy she can. But now, what I want you guys to know about China is when they get Song Dynasty, their villager production is also a little bit faster. So I'm expecting Pepinno Piggg to go for her Song Dynasty, and then we'll see if she's going to go for the second TC, but this would be quite late. And with the amount of villagers that she has on food, I don't think we're going to be seeing a second TC.
Yeah, no, I'm not really seeing that either. I mean, obviously, she's trying to macro to get another 400, 200 to get to Song Dynasty. I'm not sure if we skipped over this, but in order to get and change your dynasty for the Chinese, you need to make sure that you have both of your landmarks. You get to the ability to make both. So that Barbican is going to be able to protect a little bit of that food over there on the northern side of the map and will transform into Song Dynasty. But yeah, I kind of agree where it might be a little bit late in terms of that second town center, but one town center, it looks like that's what she's going to do. But even just being one town center Song is really good because you're exactly right. It increases the amount of production speed for those villagers, and it kind of operates like an Imperial Age French town center. We talk about the French having that little bit of villager improvement in terms of gathering speed. For Song Dynasty, it's very, very similar. Having two of them operating means in the blink of an eye, you end up having plus 20 more economic units than your opponent, and then you're ending up being able to snowball the game, right? So for Nostromia, she adds that second town center. It does go up a little bit quicker, right? But at the same time, when you have an opponent like China who goes on a second town center, and because it's a Song Dynasty town center, it's more like 2.6 town centers, whereas you are on 2. So that means, again, they have the economic advantage over you, so you need to go aggressive.
Yeah, and we can see the thing about Pepinno Pigg's response here. She saw, yes, my opponent's going for 2TC. So she knew she had to respond. Because she likes to turtle, and she likes to overwhelm you and dry you out. She needed to make sure that she has the same level of drying out going on as Nostromia. Now, Nostromia is getting those, she's starting to work on those upgrades, the economic upgrades that are now much cheaper, so that she can get ahead economically. Yes, she will catch up on villages eventually, but then that second TC pops down, and Pepinno Piggg is just going to explode in terms of that. She needs 2 stone, though. And that's why Fred is going back to work and just chopping a little bit. And, yes.
Oh,
thank you very much. Fred Word, the good man. These villages are right next to one another, and this is quite normal for China. This is something that a lot of people don't usually have in other civilizations. We don't always put our 2 TCs next to one another, but China usually does, because it's quite safe, and you just want to boom. You just want to make sure you have a lot of villages, and they are very safe. And with this Barbican, she's also secured this whole side. Oh, and there's a wall going around the berry, so we will be seeing her going for that berry play. But this Barbican protects her on this side, so she just wants to turtle. But I'm excited to see what Nostromia's plan is. And we can see with the villagers split here, we have 12, 10, 10. So we are going to be seeing a Castle Age from Nostromia. And completely naked Castle Age is that. There's no military buildings from either of these players. There's no transition we're seeing. And the same with Pepinno Piggg. She's 18 on food, 21 on food right now. Getting upgrades. But are we going to go for a fast castle too?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because you talked about Nostromia's build or lack thereof. Without any of the military buildings, it's so naked of a fast castle. I'm surprised we could show it on the Steel Series channel. Whereas the Pepinno Piggg on the other side, the reason why that town center ends up going near that first town center and why they built right next to each other is because usually a lot of the times for a second town center of other civilizations, you want to preserve some kind of resource, right? You put it on food to make sure you can continue to get all of your villagers and producing them rather quickly. But because the Chinese has the Barbican, you don't really need to put that second town center in harm's way. So you put it right next to the first one. And because you're able to put it next to the first one, it means you're able to put it next to the wood line, which means you end up getting more villagers on wood, which is where she's actually rallying towards while she's going to castle. So she can do things like transition to granaries and get that safe ability to get a strong granary transition and get good taxes off of it too.
Now, what you guys can also notice is the Imperial official is supervising gold, so we know Pepinno Piggg is gonna go straight forward towards castle as well. Nostromia might be a little bit faster, but keep in mind, China does have faster building speed, and there are buildings coming out. So both of these, they were just cooking, getting their military buildings going, and we are going to be seeing some really chonky boys coming out. Gulams, most likely, from Nostromia. And on the other side, Palace Guards from Pepinno Piggg. And Palace Guards, they hit like a truck. That is unfortunately a very difficult unit to handle. And we can see Pepinno Piggg is 6 villages ahead. But again, I am not going to discount Nostromia from that. I know Nostromia is someone who knows how to close out a game. And I don't think she's going to allow Pepinno Piggg to get that far ahead.
Well, I'll tell you, those Palace Guards, they not only hit like a truck, they sprint like a truck.
Oh.
They're a little bit faster than your normal men-at-arms. So you're able to run around and you're able to do a lot of raiding. You're able to, usually people don't talk about raiding with foot soldiers, but with the Palace Guard, you're actually able to do that. So you have a potential that she's going to be adding some cavalry on the other side. And what's really, really important for the Chinese, as you see this landmark coming up, it's the astronomical clock tower. Probably the one landmark that's given me the most gray hairs in my life. Because you get a siege workshop for free, obviously, with that clock tower. It acts like a siege workshop. But every siege unit that comes out of it, as you see, clock tower nest of bees, the longest name for a unit in the game resides right here, which is the clock tower counterweight trebuchet. You need to scroll through it because of how big it is. Having those, you get a little bit. Oh, nailed it. You get a little bit of extra. You get a little bit of extra HP, so it means more springholds are needed to try to take down other siege units for the Chinese. So Nostromia has to be able to get enough siege to be built on the battlefield, as the Abbasid dynasty can do. So you got to get enough of that siege in order to take down a Chinese base.
Now, guys, I just want to point out here that there are some camel archers here, and I just wanted to ask you, Tim, because Tim is a very big enjoyer from cavalry and archers combined. How do you feel about camel archers versus horse archers?
So camel archers are obviously, so what's really nice is in a vacuum, like 1v1, a camel archer is always going to win, right? Because of a little bit of camel unease for the horse archer. Because again, even though it shoots an arrow, it's still on a horse. So you get that little bit of damage. The camel archers actually are really good. Pound for pound, they will beat a horse archer. However, they're incredibly more expensive. You need to make sure that you have your food economy macroed a lot towards food in order to do it. Look at that, 170 food for each individual camel archer. So a lot of the times for these camel archers, they're used more for the unease, getting 1 or 2 of them in your army composition. So if your opponent comes with cavalry, you're able to have that kind of, that nerf on their cavalry. And also, but if you're going to do that with camel archers, you might as well just go camel riders, because the camel riders are going to give you that bonus against cavalry plus with the unease at the same time. So it's very interesting for camel archers to actually have a place in the Abbasid army composition, because sometimes you just add a couple camel riders and that's pretty much it. And Nostromia also adding some crossbowmen, which are really going to help her, because against those palace guards, even though they're quicker, they don't have as much armor as a normal men-at-arms. So the camel archer is going to be able to kite a little bit, maybe not as much as a normal men-at-arms, but the crossbowmen are going to be able to shred through them.
And Nostromia is making a very aggressive play for these relics as well. But to be fair, she did put the mosque all the way outside the base. So this is a risky one, especially considering Pepinno Piggg is the one being quite aggressive. Pepinno Piggg doesn't need to be, though. She can sit in her base, do her transition, as Abbasid also needs to eventually switch to farms. And there's no opportunity for her to do so anytime soon, because farms are really expensive. And right now, Pepinno Piggg is just snacking on farms. She's not playing too risky, but there is one big problem, and that is this little gold over here. So the gold will run out. Both of these players are going to have to make a play outside the map to try get the gold. And we see Nostromia doing that right now. So usually this means a keep. This means a spicy little play to just get control of the map. Right now, I don't see Pepinno Piggg planning for this too well, because her next gold realistically is here or here. And she just doesn't have the army to go out and secure this. And she is running low on gold. That's 1,200 left in the pit.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, for when you're playing as the Chinese, you're going to have some taxes that are going to help you as a monk tries to get that relic. But an Imam from the Abbasid dynasty is able to scoop that one up a little bit beforehand. What's really nice, a little bit of a villager raid over here on the northeastern side of the map. Some Camel Archer is going to be able to help out. Again, this is more of a relic battle. It reminds me of Arena from AoE 2, to be honest with you, just because of the ability to have this hill and give you that little bit of stronghold. Pepinno Piggg still not reacting to this because of how much is going on in the middle of the map. More villagers end up going down. Economic count for Pepinno Piggg only up by 7, and I would imagine for the Song Dynasty, she would want it a lot more than that. But just like you said about the gold, because I want to transition to that just a little bit, while Nostromia is getting the gold and extrapolating the resources off of the map. It used to be on Hill and Dale, the very old Hill and Dales from like Season 2, Season 3, you would have a second gold on your hill. You don't have that anymore. So you have to go out and get some of these resources. Yeah, you have taxes. Yeah, you could do a little bit in terms of gold, but once that gold runs out, and it's about to very, very quickly, she needs to find some other place to get it. And she has no map control right now because she's been hanging out in her base the whole game.
And we can see Nostromia is already thinking about this. She knows, okay, I just need to use these villages, get a keep, and secure more gold. If she puts a keep down here, she denies this gold instantly. She could do it safely, but she doesn't need to. She's ahead. And she knows she's ahead. Look at this. Nostromia is absolutely just making... so many units. And getting the siege at the front of the base as well. Yes, sure, we do have a clockwork nest of bees coming. But a clockwork nest of bees cannot perform miracles. Quite close to a miracle, though, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the nest of bees is obviously going to help you because Nostromia has a particularly big ranged mass, but you're going to need more, probably, than one beehive in order to take it down. It looks like some horsemen trying to get in very cheeky, trying to take down a lot of the siege that just got built. A lot of those Abbasid soldiers are like, I literally just built that, and now it's gone. So now there's only one Springald, and going to be adding a second Springald, going to be adding some Rams. But I really like Nostromia in her path of attack because she notices where that soft underbelly of the Chinese is, right? On that northern side. So she's going to be able to ram it down. I would think, too, you might want to try to look at exactly how you pointed out, that gold on the south side, because that's where Pepinno Piggg is. You got to be thinking about this point of the game when you're playing on Hill and Dale, the resources that you have on your respective hill are now gone. So you're going to be able to, do some raiding at this part in the game, 16 and a half minutes in. But Nostromia on that northern side continuing to use some of those camel riders and some of those gulams to try to take down this gate. Rams are going to be helping as well. And then all of a sudden, Pepinno Piggg needs to make a very strong defensive hold here if she wants her granaries to stay alive.
And she doesn't really have any units that can deal with gulams. She's making crossbows now, but a little bit late. And these horsemen are mobile. They're trying to get on top of the siege here. And it's great that she got this gold. I'm a little bit disappointed in this keep. It's a safe keep. Don't get me wrong. It's a safe keep. It's probably the better choice. But the crazy person in me would have wanted to get more of the map with this. Even putting it forward here so that you can keep that push going and force Pepinno Piggg to respond and keep her in danger. But now, I mean, she's forced to respond anyway, isn't she?
Yeah, and she sees that. I mean, the tower is going to be going down, I should say, on the northern side. There's a village over there that looks like it's got a nice bullseye on it, too. Maybe some Rams are getting in there. You got to remember those villages. They're 40 population for a Chinese player. So Pepinno Piggg is at 155 out of 160. If she's able to take down that village, she will be housing Pepinno Piggg. So it's going to be a little bit difficult. Nest of Bees going to be able to shoot off their fireworks. It looks like they doubled the Nest of Bees count, so she's got 2. Will be really good against that range mass if you're microing that correctly, and hopefully Pepinno Piggg will have the ability to do that. For Pepinno Piggg, this is put up or shut up time right now. You got to be able to take down this range mass, get those Nest of Bees up there, and it looks like that's what she's doing. The big range mass for Nostromia actually split in half. We have some on the western side making quick work of the palace guards. Maybe that Imperial official has collected his last bits of taxes, and it looks like it has. Now on the northern side, the Nostromia ranged mass has to back up just a little bit. Nest of Bees, very particularly difficult to dodge. So the range mass will be taking a little bit. But on the flip side, Nostromia, while she's doing a lot of this damage, while she's creating a lot of idle time, making her stay defensive, she's got all the sacred sites. She's got 4 relics. So now this passive gold income is going to be huge for Nostromia. She's sitting on 3,000 in the bank if she wants to do something with it.
And the thing is, I feel like if Pepinno Piggg just target fired with those Nest of Bees earlier, she would have won this fight very, very well. And she would have been able to push out and do damage. But just the Nest of Bees being A-moved might have costed the game. And yes, she did lose a lot of villagers here because she's just putting pressure at all sides. Nostromia knows that she's most likely going to lose these. So she's like, hey, let me just go deeper into the base and kill as many villagers as I can.
Yeah, I mean, saving a range mass like that, that's 6 or 7 units, like, are you gonna pull a Saving Private Ryan mission and try to get those archers and crossbowmen out? No, absolutely not. It's not worth it in terms of resources. So she's doing the best she can, creating idle time. Look at that. She found more berry villagers. It looks like there's probably somewhere around 15 to 20 in this particular area. And another thing, too, is Pepinno Pigg's army is starting to go all the way down on that southern tip. So what is Nostromia doing? She's going to take that battle a little bit more northern. She's making Pepinno Piggg try to be in 2 different places at once. And if you're a lower elo player, you're looking to try to rise up the ranks. If you're attacking from 2 different angles, making your opponent split their mental bandwidth in 2 different areas, it's huge.
So I'm trying to keep an eye on all these gold sacred site areas that's basically now going to be under control. Nostromia isn't getting more stone right now, so she's not going to be able to drop keeps everywhere, but she doesn't need to. I feel like Pepinno Piggg is just not sure how to proceed here. She lost a lot of villagers. Yes, she had them for a little while longer. She's almost going to Imperial, and Nostromia is not even thinking about Imperial. She's just sitting back and thinking about how she's going to attack from 3 different sides again.
Well, and plus the thing of it is Pepinno's the one on the timer, right? Like, she's trying to use all of her resources. She has a good macro split right now. However, I mean, obviously she's floating a lot of gold. You could use a market to try to get yourself up to Imperial because you have 7.5 minutes where you need to decap one of the sacred sites and you got to figure out a way to do it. Horsemen on the north side trying to get a raid on that siege, and it looks like it will be successful. A Springald and Whaменqt going to be ended up getting taken down. Now, when it comes to Ghulams against Palace Guards, you really like the Ghulams in that situation. They have a little bit more armor. They have a little bit more HP, so they'll be able to deal with it. Consistently raiding on the south side while this battle is going on. Nest of Bees shooting their fireworks off on that ranged mass, just like you said, Whamen. You need to make sure you're micro towards that ranged mass, and that's exactly what she did. One Nest of Bees ends up going down, but at the cost of some range units from Nostromia while raiding on the south side. And I'm not sure if Pepinno Piggg is aware of it because there is a very soft underbelly here. Gold villagers, food villagers on that deer pack. So while a lot of these units from Pepinno Piggg are rallying to the north side, her south side, and the ability for her to reproduce the units that she has is going to be very exposed.
And she keeps losing villagers to all these small raids. Nostromia is giving up the fights in a way by splitting her army, but she's not giving it up that much. She's still in control because she knows she's killing a lot. And again, the next gold's about to expire. There's a gold down here, but I smell a keep, and my smell. Oh, my smell was correct, and it stinks. Oh, this is going to be a very, very difficult thing to deal with because that's going to deny the gold here. The gold is denied in here. There's no place except maybe here. No, I spoke too soon. And the keeps just keep keeping.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that Nostromia is very good at. You know, like, this isn't necessarily aggressive, but it's indirectly aggressive, right? And now that she knows that this is where the gold villagers are, Nostromia is sending her army here. And Pepinno Piggg still hasn't reacted in this area. You got to check your mini-map, girl. There's going to be some purple blobs all over the place. So all of these villagers have to be vacated. By the time she notices that keep is 90% of the way up, it's about to be up. A lot of those rafters are going to be removed out of that area. So now she's just denied another 9,000 gold. Pretty much. And Pepinno Piggg, she's trying to get defensive as much as possible, trying to stonewall over on that particular side. But when it comes to defense, like, you don't have time for that. You know, you got 5.5 minutes until you got a sacred victory approaching. It looks like she tried to get a keep over there in that gold mine, but it ended up getting denied. And look at Pepinno Piggg trying to counter raid Whamen. We talked about these palace guards. They're like little Corvettes running around.
Now, the problem I see is Pepinno is floating 8,600 gold. I don't know what she's cooking, But I think she got the measurements wrong in the recipe because she needs to change the pace a little bit here. This is something she can easily turn into Imperial. Not that I think Imperial is the answer, or she could just be making a lot more units. But she's doing her damage. The Palace Guards are inside Nostromia's base, or the front of the base at least. But I don't think they're going to be doing the damage they need to do, while this ram mass is going to be knocking at the back. Nostromia, again, just splitting up her units, knowing that it's dangerous, but she might be able to get more than one attack going at the same time.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly what she's doing. You know, she's trying to disrupt these gold villagers at least a little bit. It looks like there's enough crossbowmen from Pepinno Piggg. That might not be that big of a deal. There's a villager conga line on the south side. Really, they just ran through the front line and didn't care.
They knew what they wanted. It's like when you're in the dating game. You meet someone great and you're like, this is what I want. Those villagers saw the gold and they knew. Love of their life right there.
Oh, preach, girl. That's exactly that's exactly how it works. And a lot of for those gold villagers, that's exactly what's going for as well. Now, Nostromia, again, just because of her ability to produce her military mass, and because this is probably the first time that she's actually getting raided, that military mass from Pepinno Piggg has to back up. There's only one outpost for 5 of them. It's not a clown car, ladies and gentlemen. You can't fit 20 villagers in there. Only 5 of them are going to end up running out, so most of them running for their lives. And now we're at the first time in the game, probably since the game's inception, where Nostromia has more villagers than Pepinno Piggg.
And this is very strange to see when you're playing against the China. China is always drowning in economy, trying to find out, oh, can I stop producing villagers so I can make some army? But right now, Pepinno Piggg has neither. Pepinno Piggg is producing, but she's not making the right units to change this game. You can see those are just palace guards coming out. There's 9,500 gold. I think she's panicking. The fact that this woman has not switched to different resources tells me she's panicking. Look at that nest of bees. He's doing their best. Look at them go.
Yep, for my Americans in chat, it's the 4th of July all over again. A lot of these fireworks are going to be coming out. And that range mass, but just because of the fact that she only has 1, right? She only had 1 nest of bees, so it wasn't going to be able to take him out. Now this is a death ball. Now you've gotten enough archers with composite bows. You've gotten some crossbowmen to help you out. Military count 72 to 13, right? Pepinno Piggg has a population of 107. She's been trying to stabilize in terms of gold for the past 10 minutes, even though she has 9,000 of it. Nostromia on the other side is completely population capped. I see a good historical reference in chat. This is the Battle of Talos. People wonder if the Chinese and the Abbasid dynasty actually met in real life, and they did. They did. And it looks like looking like, for a historical reference, that it's going to go the way of how it did in the past, with Abbasid coming out on top.
What's very interesting to me is that the Chinese population, they're still focused on that gold. They just want to get rich and stay rich. But at the cost of what? At the cost of the battle. And that is history repeating itself again, right there. Drowning in resources, but just not having the army to take down Nostromia.
Yeah, I mean, now it's just kind of a death ball, right? Oof. Now it's just kind of an area that there really isn't really much you can do about it. And because Nostromia is going to be population capped and continued to be population capped as Pepinno is losing more villagers in that conga line, she has the potential to go up to Imperial Age. Whereas Pepinno Piggg, although she necessarily does in terms of resources, maybe she won't be able to. Pepinno Piggg going to be able to use those palace guards just because of how quick they are. Maybe try to deny that keep, and it will be denied successfully. So Pepinno Piggg gets a little bit of gold to add to her 8,800. Hopefully she hits that 10k mark soon. I'm really rooting for her. On the flip side, Nostromia is the Abbasid dynasty going up with economic wing. It's a minute and 45 seconds, whether you like it or not, as we've described with the Abbasid dynasty. So for Nostromia, all she has to do is hold. She has enough gold to get all of those Imperial Age upgrades. They're 700 gold each to try to get those elite upgrades. So they're pretty expensive. As long as you're able to hold, you're able to stop these palace guards from raiding too much into your base and into your gold mine. It means that you are going to have that technological superiority and you're going to be able to take down Pepinno Piggg.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. And we see the sacred sites ticking. And I don't know if Pepinno Piggg realizes that. The sacred sites are at 1 minute, and we're gonna hear a little bell soon that makes Pepinno Piggg realize, oh, I might need to go decap that, innit? And she runs past some boiling oil. The villagers burn wounds all the way, just running for it. And if we're looking at this historically, you're not going to recover from those burn wounds. Those villagers just more and more going down. She is getting that lumber camp down. She will be chopping some wood though. She realizes I have 7,600 gold. I could use wood instead. But
yeah, a lumber camp might not be a bad idea at that particular juncture. I think Nostromia is just continuing to try to raid this gold because she's got to think in the back of her head. She's like, well, if Pepinno Piggg is trying to get this gold so much, it means that she probably doesn't have a lot. So she thinks that's the resource in order to, you know, try to stranglehold the Chinese. That just ends up not being the case in this particular area. Pepinno Piggg does have a market. She can, although she doesn't have map control, she has the potential to trade. I don't think trade would be the best idea. But now that Nostromia is Imperial Age, she's going to be able to get some of those Imperial Age technologies. You can see Elite Archers, that first one that she clicks up on the top left-hand part of the screen. A lot of her blacksmith upgrades as well. And look at all of the gold that Nostromia had. You saw that she had about 4,000. It went away in a blink of an eye because of all of those technologies. They're so expensive. Nostromia's military mass is essentially all ranged besides a few Gulams. They will be able to make a good target practice out of those palace guards. Mangonels are going to be adding up as well. So now for Nostromia, it's going to be, you know, a little bit of time, maybe about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Once she gets those elite upgrades, look out.
I don't even think she needs to wait for these upgrades. She has the units. Pepinno Piggg does have a lot, but it doesn't feel like she's confident enough to try and take this. She's ready to age up to. Finally, she has the food to do so, but I think there's just too much happening right now. I don't know if she's going to notice this, but these Nest of Bees, they do need to target fire on top of that ranged mass. They do back out. She realizes this is my one weakness. The Rams do a lot of work. The villagers are desperate to rebuild this keep. And those Nest of Bees did not do the work they needed. Oh, and that is a keep going down. And the military mass just slowly dissipating as well.
Well, look at the way Nostromia split. Whamen. She used her range mass. She split them up in 3 or 4 different areas as we're getting a little bit of a counter raid over on the northern side. But military mass, 73 to 27, just because of Nostromia's micro was absolutely insane. Trying to get 2 or 3 different groups of ranged units so those Nest of Bees didn't have a good target. And now all of a sudden, she has all of her Imperial Age upgrades. Pepinno Piggg is still in Castle Age. She hasn't even started building the landmark yet. I don't know how she's going to come up with this. I mean, she's starting to get that Spirit Way now. She's got 18 villagers building it, and I know for the Chinese, your build speed is a little bit quicker, so you'll be able to get it up. But, you know, how are you able to stop what's going on right in front of your face?
At this point, you still have all that gold. If you add a few more Nest of Bees, maybe that would be a very nice thing to have. The Nest of Bees are trying their best, but the Mangonels are just... They're just targeting the Nest of Bees at this point. They know that they can just take them down. And the Palace Guards don't take as much damage, but also, these are Imperial Age units. You aren't the scary Palace Guards you think you are. But look at Pepinno Piggg. She's like, oh, I can get upgrades. So she gets upgrades, but now there's no more units left. She's about to just get her whole base destroyed by these.
Yeah, and I mean, you could tell just pretty much in terms of the macro distribution, right? Nostromia knows that she has a rather food-heavy macro. She's adding Gulam, she's adding Crossbowmen. So look at the way she's allocating resources. She got all of her upgrades, so she doesn't need too much in the way of gold. Those Gulams, I mean, yeah, they're a little bit of gold, but they're not, you know, an end-all be-all. But now here's that underbelly right in those granaries. If you're playing against a Chinese player and you got a mass like this in granaries, you know you're just, it is such a good spot.
This is exactly where you clean up your opponent, and your opponent gets out there begging for mercy. These Rams are going to be knocking away... Oh, where are the Rams? Oh, the Rams are knocking away at the one building they fear. Stopping those, you know, the big clock tower. And they tap out. Pepinno Piggg calls it...
Usually, as far as AoE 4 goes, when you win water, you win the game, right? Just because your dock... Especially for your ability to get it in Dark Age, your dock is going to act like a accessory town center, right? You're going to be able to make sure that you get your fishing boats to get that food, and then it kind of spirals into making more units that are heavy on food. We kind of know that already if you're somebody who plays AoE4. So in a particular instance, you talk about how good China is on water, but you talk about how good Japanese is on water, because Japan, probably for hybrid maps, is your go-to civ at this point. You know, having the ability to, you could do things like get a Coca Township, so you get Shinobi. Getting things like Shinobi are really important. And doing things like getting your fishing boats at half price are really, really important as well. And it looks like we are diving into this particular game. We have Nostromia playing as Japanese in the color purple on the north part of your screen. Pepinno Piggg as the Chinese on the southern part of the screen. And, for people that might be new to Golden Heights, I'm not sure if it's in the ranked ladder pool right now, but I'm sure you've probably played Golden Heights once or twice. As soon as you start this game, as you see what Nostromia is doing, you pull a villager, you get a dock up there.
That villager is going to drop down the dock, but we actually see something spicy from Pepinno Piggg. And honestly, this can cost them the game. This is such a risky play. To not make a play for water is very, very tough. Now, what I'm expecting to see from Pepinno Piggg, just because she's not going for water, I expect her obviously to go for a fast feudal, but then to transition into 2TC, because the only way that you keep up with the water economy is a 2TC. And I don't think China has the firepower in feudal to close out a game against a Japanese player.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, because for the Chinese, they need a little bit of time to get their feet out from under them, right? They need to make sure that they can get some stability in a lot of these resources. And if because you're getting aggressive, right, it just means that you're probably not going to be able to do things like a granary transition because you don't have the time, you don't have the tempo in order to do it. So you're going out to get a lot of these outside food resources. And obviously, because you have a dock, you've basically just, without a fight, essentially just given up water. And in this instance, as the Chinese against Japanese, I get it. Because fishing boats are half price, so it means less wood, which means they're going to be able to age up a lot quicker. But also, if China did want to contest it, they get a barracks, they get a spearman. Basically, for Japanese, it's a lot like how English plays, because English has the ability to make Vanguard men-at-arms in Dark Age. Japanese has the ability to make samurai in Dark Age. So you just have a pound-for-pound better unit than the Chinese could ever make in Dark Age. So Pepinno Piggg is like, yeah, why even bother?
But the nice thing that I see Nostromia went for as well is that mini wheelbarrow that you get in the early game. But Japanese has this very, very cheap upgrade that gives them a tiny bit of a boost, especially with berry economy. And that's why she is rather on berries than going for her sheep, which means she is also going to have safe food once and if Pepinno Piggg tries to contest water, which I don't think is going to happen. The thing that we would have seen from Pepinno Piggg by now is we would have seen a villager being sent to water to build a dock, to be up in feudal, to make a ship and get water back. So she's definitely not going to be going for the water play at all. Now, at the same time, Nostromia is just relaxing. She is getting 4 villages on wood, which is so little from what other civilizations need to keep making fishing ships. So she's just relaxing. She's getting her age up pretty soon because, they are already on gold. She is going to be a little bit worried about that early aggression, but I don't think Pepinno Piggg has any crazy things up her sleeve to try and kill her very early on.
Yeah, and I think it's just because China just doesn't have the ability to do it. I mean, it's very difficult for them. Obviously, to get up to feudal age is normal, but if they wanted to do something like get aggressive with a Zug Nil, for instance, you have to be in Song Dynasty for it. So you need another 400, 200. So it just takes a little bit of time in order for you to do it. And Chinese just doesn't have the capabilities. I'm really glad that you mentioned the Japanese quote-unquote wheelbarrow. And Tawara, that very first upgrade that you do get, she does have. And then Takazaiku is available in feudal age. Are you impressed with how I can pronounce these Japanese words? Because I'm kind of impressing myself at this point.
Wow, you are, because guys, Tim only speaks one language, so the fact that he knows these words, that's a very big upgrade for him. I'm really proud of this community. Very nice to me. Very nice.
In the heaviest American accent, I will be saying these words, but the ability to obviously it turns the Japanese into a little bit of a berry sieve. Getting that increase. And then when you do things like in feudal age, what Nostromia is doing right now, adding instead of Coca, because she wasn't having to have any kind of dock shenanigans, she can go cure a storehouse. And getting that storehouse means you get farms that generate automatically for you every so often. So she can get villagers onto those farms. She's able to transition into a daimyo manor. So it just means that her farms are going to be a little bit stronger once that fish ends up running out, because it's pretty good tempo and the deep water fish do restock. But sometimes you get to a point where all 3 of the deep water fish are gone, and then you're like, yeah, I'm a little bit low on food macro. So having that Kura storehouse is a little bit of a buffer going to help you out. As Pepinno Piggg is going to be going with Song Dynasty. She's got a Barbican right next to that deer pack. And that's something that, because she didn't go water, she has to do. And that's why water is so important, because Nostromia can take a lot of time and using villagers for things that aren't food because she has those boats. Pepinno Piggg, she doesn't have that luxury.
And this is now just going to allow Nostromia to imagine having 5 extra villagers over your opponent 5 minutes into the game. That is going to put you so far ahead. That's like you playing against someone who tries to villager rush you and they just run all the villagers right into your TC and then trying to make a comeback. So Pepinno Piggg is going to have to perform miracles here. And she's going to try. She has a lot on wood. I'm assuming she's just going to try to make some Jugenu. Because when I see that amount on wood, I assume Jugenu. And we do see the rest of them over here on the food sources. But again, you're fighting against a very strong lead. Now keep in mind, there's also a limit to how many fishing boats this 3 deep water fish economy can provide. Most people would say you put 3 fishing ships on here. And early game, you could potentially do 12. So there's going to be a maximum of, let's say, 12 fishing boats that will be ahead, but that's a lot of fishing boats, and that's a lot of food as an advantage, especially against a civilization like China, who thrives off having an advantage economically and then losing some units. But now Japanese is just going to completely dominate in that.
Yeah, I mean, doing things like Song Dynasty might help you out a little bit, just to make sure your villagers are getting a little bit of an increase in terms of production speed. But it looks like Nostromia, as well as the Japanese, just because of how much food she's getting out of those fishing boats, she did get some dock upgrades, which is going to help her fishing boats a little bit better. She has the potential to get up to Castle Age, but now Pepinno Piggg, she's going for a little sneaky dock over there. For Nostromia, where she put her dock and where she put her fishing boats, which have a lot of vision, she's never going to be able to see this. So now, Whamen, this game is looking a little bit spicier than we thought.
She does have vision, though. She is aware, but does she has vision, but does she know Pepe Laugh? I don't think so. Oh, now she knows. Now she knows. And the response, no, she knew. She knew. She also gets herself a junk. So this should be able to allow her to survive a little bit. But the Springald ship... no Springald ship. But an incendiary ship was not the right answer here. Getting an explosive ship this early on against something that is really good against it... Oh, this is going to be quite hard. But look at that micro. Almost gets out ahead. And we see the Springald ship coming out next. But... in a response, we see it from both sides.
Yeah, and I mean, with that explosive junk, don't let the name fool you. I know you're
probably
thinking about, you're probably thinking about a firecracker in a dumpster, but the explosive junk has the ability to take down Springald ships rather quickly, and those are your powerhouse units when you're talking about a navy. Nostromia does the heads-up #1 play that I would recommend everybody to do if you're having this kind of naval battle. Get yourself naval arrow slits. It means your dock is going to be a defensive stronghold. It's going to act as an outpost. It does so much damage to opposing ships, and it has such a wide range. So once she's able to get that, she's going to be able to stabilize her food economy. Maybe she gets a little shoreline fish instead, but still, as long as she has fishing boats doing something. And for Pepinno Piggg, just because, she's taking a lot of resources to do this, it better pay off. She's adding explosive junks with a big shot on one of those war junks. You can see that war junk going down rather quickly. Naval arrow slits is going to help Nostromia out. As you can see, it just got researched. But if Pepinno Piggg makes enough ships, maybe adds a second dock, she might be able to take over water here.
This is absolutely wild coming from them. But both of them also looking at castle. So these players aren't fully committed into this feudal water fight. Both of them are looking like, I could go for castle. Floating all those resources here? No, they're definitely looking at cooking up castle. And we know that a Japanese castle is a very scary castle. Because of those chunky samurai. She just make her first one. Just to go start the fight.
Yeah, I mean, those samurai in Castle Age will probably... Ooh, a little bit of a missed micro here. It looks like an explosive jump going down on the Japanese side. But the mounted samurai, especially in Castle Age, are so, so good. And they're going to be able to give you a lot of map control, make sure you can get those relics. So we're probably going to see from Nostromia, when she hits 1200 food, go up with that floating gate. We're going to see a suspending gate in the air, I would imagine, pretty soon. But again, she's taking a lot of resources and trying to make sure that her fishing economy is staying alive. She only has like 3 boats right now, maybe 4 or 5 fishing boats. I can see a little bit more on the northern side. But this naval arrow slits, this is pretty much the reason why those boats are able to stay alive.
And this is actually pretty wild about how she's just protecting this water economy. You can see she's making a lot of ships. She doesn't want to lose water because she knows this is the chance for Pepinno Pig to come back. You guys can see that villager difference now. That Song Dynasty kicking in for Pepinno Pig. And all of a sudden, it doesn't look as scary for her as it used to. Both of these players now going for the age up. China will be a little bit faster, going for the astronomical clock tower, which, you know, has the longest unit name in the game. Thank you, Tim, for the fun fact. But this is just going to be great for her. But dealing with Japanese, I feel like Japanese units have the ability to get on top of those nest of bees.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just because of how fast they are. You know, a lot of the times when you're going up against the Japanese civilization, you're going to be thinking about more ranged mass than anything because of their ability to have a lot of melee units. They have Onobugisha, or a lot of people call them Bugattis, because of how quick they move. You could use things like samurai, spearmen, all that kind of stuff. Their infantry is just that good, and especially with cavalry. So doing things like a range mass, adding Zugnu, adding crossbowmen are really going to help you out. But Pepinno Pig is going with a stable herself. And honestly, I'm not sure if I agree with this move, because I get it. Like, you need the mobility around the map, and that'll help you out. But your knights or lancers for the Chinese are going to be that much inferior to the mounted samurai, where you're going to be fighting an uphill battle.
And she knows that the mountain samurais are cooking. The fact that the scout sees the stable and she's like, hey, we're going to do it anyway. Let me get my horses out. This shows that she believes in this. And she does also believe in capturing this water. And the fishing... Ooh, this is going to be a big fight. Let's just make sure we can get an eye on it. But the thing is that dock makes the world of difference. Just having those arrow slits changed this completely. It changed it from a one-sided fight into a very, very difficult push for Pepinno Pig. So there's going to be 2 fights here. We see our lances coming out, but at the same time, as the stem said, these spicy mounted samurais are producing.
You know, the best thing about those mounted samurai Whamen is when you get that floating gate, you get the Yoroshiru, or I call them boxes. You go ahead and throw a box into that stable. It means the mounted samurai, in terms of production speed, they pop out every 11 seconds. So if you're not, when you're the Chinese, unless you're supervising a stable, you're never going to keep up with the production. You can see the little thing. It kind of looks like a dog bone almost on top of the stable, but that means that a Yoroshiru is in there. And it means that you're going to be able to produce those rather quickly. Now, the only thing for Nostromia is you need to make sure you have the economy to do so. But on water, she has got a big naval mass. Pepinno has to take this fight away from the opponents, the Japanese dock, just because of the arrow slits that's going there. But this is going to get cleaned up. There are so many war junks and junks from Nostromia. Make sure whatever the counter is, they're going to be able to deal with it. And now that they go down, I don't think Pepinno Pig has naval arrow slits on her dock. It means that Nostromia has stabilized on water yet again.
And honestly, this is fine for Pepinno Pig. The fact that she lost water there is okay. She is using that Song Dynasty to get ahead, make villagers faster, and at the same time, the water is being given back to Nostromia. So there's the give and take between these two. I do, however, think that Nostromia is going to be able to run right through Pepinno Pig, because you can see the army difference right now is in ships, but she's cooking barracks as well. And now we're going to see some real samurais.
Yeah, I like adding a little bit of infantry in here as well now. And just because what's really important for the samurai and the mounted samurai is having that refractive armor. You know, you can see based on where some of these samurai are, you see the little white bars on top of their normal health bars. It's very difficult to see, but you can see it. When it's filled up, they have refractive armor, which means whatever first hit gets the samurai, it's completely negated. So that's why they're so good against other Castle Age knights, is because they charge into each other. That 30 damage or whatever that lance ends up doing is completely negated so they end up being incredibly tanky. Samurai have that exact same thing. Just because as long as they have samurai in their name, they're going to have some refraction in that armor. And it means that Pepinno Piggg, she's going for Palace Guards, she's going for Lancers. It just ends up being the inferior unit.
And now the water has been secured, everything is fine for over there. And I do like the fact that Pepinno Piggg is trying to contest these relics, but she probably needs to start making a play for them as well. Because Japanese, do have those units, they can just go and pick them up, bring it home, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Those boys are just picking them up, dragging them home and putting them down. Both of these players contesting relics, which, honestly, inspirational. Something I definitely need to get working on as well. I just let my opponent eat all the relics they want. The food is running out, though.
You know, there's some civilizations that do it better, though. You know, I know you've been experimenting and dabbling into HRE, so relics are like the most important thing in your life. When it comes to the HRE, for the Japanese, it's kind of similar. Because on Fast Castle, usually on land, you're only one town center, and you're trying to get to Castle Age as quickly as possible. So that relics become the economic advantage. Plus, when you're getting free Shinto priests, you're able to pick them up a little bit easier. I think Pepinno Piggg is noticing she might be a little far down in the economic sense, and adding a second town center. I really like this.
I do love the fact that the second TC is coming out at this point of the game, which she knows it's more or less even, and she realizes I need to find a way to get ahead. That's what makes this a really interesting play. And this is also a question that many of the people who I coach ask me. When do I go for a second TC? When do I go for castle? When do I go to attack? This is these two learning the game and understanding what I need to do right now. She knows she's not going to win if she just stays at the same pace, but she also is taking a big risk. But this might be a risk that pays off, who knows?
Yeah, I think it's a risk that you kind of have to do. You know, I mean, yeah, she can get her base barrel into, and obviously, you know, you wouldn't recommend that if you're a Pepinno Piggg fan, but if you don't get that second town center, you're always going to be down. You're always going to be economically inferior because of all these boats that you're showing over here on the side. A lot of these deep water fish, they do get replenished, so you can get some shoreline fish when you're able to do it. And it looks like Pepinno Piggg adding some horsemen as well with her composition. She's trying to get some kind of raids over here with her lancers, but they're ended up coming up dry. Not a lot of worker kills throughout the entirety of this game, and Nostromia did a really good job of making sure that she's walled up. This north wall is so good at making sure that those lancers don't end up getting there. And even just with a couple mounted samurai and a spearman, it makes Pepinno Piggg think twice about this battle. And it just shows how important those mounted samurai are. And they end up getting cleaned up, but cost effectively, they've been worth their weight in gold so far.
Now, I don't like that Pepinno is so bent on getting these villagers to run this far for her wood. She needs to get that farm transition up, because I don't know if she realizes, but Nostromia is cooking. She's cooking with 2,300 food. Not enough gold, but we see that she put 18 villagers on gold right now. So this woman is going for Imperial, and it's going to be absolutely disgusting, because we know what Japanese Imperial looks like. Once they get those free ticket units, this is going to be very hard to defend for Pepinno.
Oh, I'll tell you what, Imperial Age Japanese is some of the most fun in late game. And you know me, Whamen. Me, late game and fun usually don't go in the same sentence. But Japanese, being able to do that in Imperial Age, you get all of those Zergling units, those Onobugisha, those Spearmen, those Samurai, and you could just produce them out of like 18 barracks at once because of how much food you have. It's devastating.
The thing is as well, we see the same thing we saw from Nostromia last game. She is confident going out on the map and getting the resources. She doesn't go for the safe gold. She goes for the gold out there because she knows she's in control. And Pepinno Piggg, she has that full villager lead, but she doesn't have the same economy to back her up behind this. Oh, and these units are running right into damage. Oh, just being impaled left, right, and center. They're all going down. Oh, in absolute destruction.
I really like how Nostromia really takes advantage of the map when she gets map control. You've noticed, like, as soon as she gets map control, the first thing that she thinks about are sacred sites, which is just fantastic. You know, a lot of players usually don't end up doing that. They're looking to try to kill their opponent, but she does it. She's not only, I mean, we talk about how aggressive, but she's methodically aggressive.
And I just noticed that she doesn't have any military upgrades. Oh, this might be, I don't know if this is a bug. I don't know if this is a bug, but no, it's not. She only has wedge rivets. Oh, okay, and she does have the weapon upgrade. Never mind, that one is bugged. Relic? get on it. But the thing is, she just won this fight while aging up. And this nest of bees is just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's just gonna arch his face upwards as he dies. Ready to fire, but not firing at anything. And Pepinno just doesn't have the army to contest this. She's just too far behind at this point.
Yeah, I mean, look at her resources right now. I mean, she has to keep making units just to make sure she doesn't die. But on the flip side, Nostromia, she's got 40 villagers on food. She's going to be able to continuously produce whatever she wants. And then she's doing that. She's using samurai. She's using spearmen. She's going to be able to continuously go into Pepinno's Pigg's base and just make sure that whatever age that she's stuck in, she's going to end up staying there, you know? And I think really what Nostromia does so well is when she does get those sacred sites, and I usually say this for a lot of sacred site victories, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. If you're continuously in your opponent's base, see some of those free hand cannoneers taking target practice on those lancers, but if you're able to be in your opponent's base all the time, it means they're not battling you on sacred sites. So you could just let that timer keep ticking.
Yeah, you're throwing away a handful of units to just make sure that you get this advantage. Because now Pepinno Piggg doesn't just need to worry about those free units popping out for Nostromia from the landmark, but she also needs to worry about... Oh, now that I look here, there's a lot to worry about. So it's Tanegashima, gunsmith.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm bumping right now. This thing is just going to keep pouring out, but with these forward barracks, we see the upgrade coming for the samurai. We know that those things are just going to overwhelm with this water economy as well. The fishes are getting low, but it's more than enough to sustain Nostromia and her deadly samurai plan.
And you know what's really important against Japanese? If you want to do me a favor, click on a samurai for me. Because I want to make this abundantly clear. One of the things that are very good. If you hover over the samurai's picture, you can see that they got the upgrade, not only the elite samurai upgrade, but they got the upgrade that's called Odachi, which is in Castle Age. It gives you a +4 damage to any infantry unit. It can be the Palace Guard, which Pepinno Piggg is making. It could be the crossbowman, anything that's on foot. It gets that +4 damage too. So Pepinno Piggg is going into a lot of Palace Guards. You can see that army composition on the top part of your screen. Palace Guards are going to get absolutely chewed up by all of these samurai. And I think Pepinno Piggg is noticing there's a little bit of blood in the water, so it might be a fight that she needs to take. And as you see this front line for Pepinno Piggg, mostly being Palace Guards, you're going to see them get chewed up by these samurai pretty easily.
And he makes it! He makes it! The villager has survived. Oh, this barbecue
Probably with a lot of trauma, but it did survive.
He's running away. I don't think he's ever going back to base. He's abandoned the whole dynasty. He's just saying, I'm just gonna go chop wood, dude. They can convert me later. That's fine. I'll serve the enemy.
Wow, that Barbican went down in pretty much a blink of an eye.
Yeah,
you know, and a lot of these infantry units for the Japanese, they're so scary just because not only the Odachi like we talked about, but getting Oda tactics out of the university. It's not elite army tactics for the Japanese. You get that health bonus, but you also get damage bonus. And now Pepinno Piggg, she feels like she has to stand up and fight because there isn't really much she can do about it. Samurai giving that refractive armor, making sure that first Palace Guard hit is essentially null and void. And even though there's a lot of spearmen in here, she doesn't have that DPS unit to try to take down Samurai. She has a couple crossbowmen, and that's pretty much it. There's all of these hand cannoneers for the Japanese going to be able to make quick work of those Castle Age Palace Guards. Frontline gets absolutely wiped out. Military lead 54-17 and continuing to drop for Pepinno Piggg. She's doing her best and trying to make sure she gets a lot of Palace Guards out of her barracks, but I think she only has 5 or 6 barracks right now. Her ability to reproduce and replenish for her army, it's not there. As soon as they come out of the barracks, they're dead.
Yeah, they keep running into the other units as well, but honestly, even if they all had bazookas attached to them, I don't think they're going to do any damage to these samurais. These samurais are just going to take that deflective shot and then go kill them. By the time they reload that bazooka, it's gone. So, yes, Age of Empires with bazookas. Concept? University upgrade?
Now, I will say, for the Japanese town centers, when they get Shogunate Castle, it's the closest thing to a bazooka that you have. She still just has that normal town center, so we're not going to be able to see it. But the Shogunate Palace basically shoots intercontinental ballistic missiles at your opponents whenever they try to raid you. But raiding for the Japanese isn't really something that they're worried about. They're more so offensively trying to raid. More of these archery ranges trying to spit out crossbowmen. Not going to be able to be as effective. Nostromia, 25 minutes in the game, adds her first bannerman. Something that we talked about for the Japanese, giving you a little bit of increased damage for a lot of your infantry. So that's really going to help. Again, we're seeing Nostromia taking battles more so in Pepinno Pigg's base, to the point where all of these granaries have to be vacated. I'm not sure if they ended up, all of those villagers ended up getting killed, but I do see in terms of worker kill counts for Nostromia, we're hovering close to 60 Whamen.
That is a large amount of villagers that went down. 65 now. That's a whole early game, or mid game, right there. And she just took them out. That is going to seal the deal. At this point, Pepinno Pigg's villagers that are alive are just spending so much time inside the TC, inside the towers, just trying to survive. These samurais are just trying to find more victims. They're slicing and dicing right now. Look at all these bodies just lying everywhere. Disgusting. And Nostromia just is not looking at slowing down. Look at these villagers running for their lives. This guy's still chopping wood. He even got a friend. He got a friend to commit to the cause. Both of them deciding to abandon the dynasty and go on with their lives, while everyone else in the village is getting slaughtered.
They're basically like, hey, you know what? We're going to make our own China, okay? It takes it. We're going to get 2 villagers together. We're going to be able to repopulate China, but we're going to need a lot more time in order to pull that off. A lot of these villagers going down. You might be thinking, why isn't Pepinno Pigg surrendering? This is her tournament leg. She's down on a population of 40. Nostromia does have the 1-0 lead, but, you know, she's trying to make sure that if she dies, it's going to be because Nostromia takes her out of the tournament, not because she's going to surrender. She goes for a panic keep over here on the western side, trying to protect her granaries, but there's no way she could even get to the blueprint to start taking a hammer to it. It looks like one villager finally does, but it ends up going down.
3, 4, 5, my God. 6.
It's just destruction. It's miserable. That last town center is going to be the only landmark standing from the finals for Nostromia, and Pepinno Pigg's like, you know what? I know you wanted it. I'm not letting you have it. I'll destroy it myself.